Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from DeltaCX.com. We're a full service CX and UX agency, and welcome to the early version of Office Hours Ask Me Anything. Good morning, Kumar. Normally, I do this at 6:30 p.m. Italy time every Tuesday, and once a month, the third Tuesday, I also do an early one for all of the time zones near me and east of me, or I guess east is that way. But because I'm doing a course in the evenings, my time, most of the evening streams this week are canceled and have been rescheduled. If you'd like to check when I will be streaming, just look at deltacx.link/events. That always has the most current calendar, and that way you can see when everything has been moved, because I have shifted around the schedule a lot actually for the rest of the calendar year. So thanks for joining. It's October 19th, 2021. You are welcome to ask me any question you would like through the YouTube chat room, through the LinkedIn chat room, or I am monitoring anonymous questions, optionally anonymous, at deltacx.link/ask. I'm just going to open up all my windows here so that I can take your questions. And I also have a new system for questions where I'm going to put them up on the screen as I answer them. So let's jump into the first question. I got two questions ahead of time, so I'm going to start with them, and then I'll take any other questions that come in live. And let's see, this one's long. I might need to make the font smaller. All right, hold on. Okay, this one's long. Okay, there we go. I think I got everything on one screen. All right, let's read this out loud, and then let's give it some answers. And if you in the chat room would like to give an opinion, you are welcome to also. It says, "Hello, Debbie. I interviewed with a hiring manager over a year ago and had to do an assignment, boo hiss, and then was ghosted by them. However, I was hired later at the same company by a different manager, no interview assignment this time. My job is remote, and the first manager is located on the other side of the country. Maybe the first manager won't remember me. I don't work with them for now. Number one, should I act like we never met? Number two, or if this person does remember me, how do I react? Number three, how do I avoid having negative feelings about the first manager? Thanks for giving great advice." Well, I hope it'll be great advice. So it sounds like you're asking, what should you do if in the course of your new job, congratulations, you run into the person who interviewed you at some point and then ghosted you? I think that we can really take all of the qualities that we prefer and expect in a UX worker and put them into work here. So we talk about resilience, which is, hey, let it go, let it roll off you. So let's not hold old grudges against that hiring manager. You got a job, everything worked out for you. It's even at the same company, and you don't have to work for them. So thing one, you won. So have some resilience. Work on letting that go, because this person hasn't greatly wronged you, at least not yet. They ghosted you, and we don't yet know what happened. You know, I have found that in the past 2 years, some people ghosted me, and when I finally caught up with them, they were like, "Hey, I had COVID," and you're like, "Oh crap, hashtag empathy. I should probably be a little bit forgiving of this person." You know, so hi Shivam, I see your question. I will add it to the list. I'm not sure I totally understand your question, so maybe while I answer these other questions, give me a little bit more information if you can, because it sounds like a real work question, but we'll get to that in a moment. So number one, do you act like we've never met? No, I'd probably say to someone, if they act like, do I know you or have we met? I wouldn't pretend we haven't met. I would probably say, yeah, you know, we actually met last year when I interviewed for a job in your department. And unfortunately that didn't happen, and I was able to get a job in this department. I think you can absolutely be gracious. I don't think you should pretend that hi Janani, how's it going? These morning streams are thanks to Janani. I don't think you should pretend you don't know the person. I don't think you should bring up the ghosting. I would just say, oh, you know, yeah, I did interview with you last year when you had that job open for blah, 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 but I guess it didn't work out. But luckily I'm over here now. That's it. You don't have to say, what happened back then? Or why did you ghost me? Don't bring it up. Just don't. You don't need to. What's the difference? You can't gain anything from it. And again, you won. You got a job there and you don't have to work for that person who ghosted you, who may have ghosted you for a crappy reason or a reason we would want to have empathy about. Or sympathy. There. So I hope that helps, and good luck. And I wouldn't be afraid to run into this person. They're just a regular person, and you have no idea what happened there. And I would not ask, and I would just be friendly. This is ultimately a person you want to have a good relationship with. Maybe at some point you do want to transfer into their department. So everybody is a potential buddy. That's what I would say. All right, let's put up the next question. Do you know of a good way to test different copy with users without A/B testing? Okay, so I tend to see A/B testing, and this may just be my style of things. I tend to see A/B testing as testing that we do on the live site. So like say this is a website and say you want to change homepage copy. You would have the live homepage copy and you would have live alternate copy and you're testing A and B. I think that there's definitely copy testing that can be done before it goes live. And I've heard of many teams that are working with content strategists or content designers to do that. And that way, we're using UX testing and evaluative research to determine before the copy goes live, because you can always A/B test it later, but did we test B before it went live? Why not? We should be testing that first. So I would think that there would be ways that you can test it early. Let's say, I haven't done a specific testing of copy before, but I think you could do a moderated usability test where, and again, I don't know what kind of copy you're testing. I don't know if this is technical. I don't know if this is marketing on the public website. But normally, to me, a good way to test copy, and again, I'm not a copy strategist or designer. Those are the better people to ask. In this case, this is a little out of my specialty, but I would consider trying to put people into the site and just give them a task where they would bump into that copy. So, you are considering hiring our company for X. How do you decide if we're the right company for you? Okay, that's extremely broad, but it means that they're probably going to have to look at this copy, or you might learn that they don't read the copy. Yeah, I look for your reviews and I do a demo of your product and blah, blah, blah. And you might find nobody's reading this copy, and then whatever, decide what to make it say. But if you do find that you can create a task that hypothetically would be designed to have people bump into the copy, you can certainly learn from that. One mistake I would say here would be when people say, go to this page and take a look at the copy and what do you think? Or what's your impression? Or what will you remember about this? Or how do you feel? I think these things aren't as important as considering being task oriented. Remember when we're doing our task analysis and we're task oriented, we care about the steps people take and if they have to do anything during that task to try to improve their own task. Do they need a workaround? Do they have the right knowledge for what we're expecting them to do? And your copy may or may not play into some of that knowledge. But again, we don't want to assume that everybody has certain knowledge. So I would probably just give people a common task for whatever part of the site or system they're in and see how they interact with the copy naturally when not given a leading question like, go read this and tell me what you think. But again, try to find a content strategist or content designer to see what they would do because they might have a better answer than I do. Thank you. I'm going to try Shivam's question, but I'm not sure I completely understand it. And I do have a question also from Janani. So let's add these to the list. I do keep a list because they become the description in the YouTube channel. So here's what, I think I can scroll back here. Oh, this is looking very strange. I'll just put this up the new way. And Shivam, I hope you're here because I might need you to explain this a little bit more. I'll try to answer it and you can tell me if I'm going on the right track. Hi, R for everything. I will put your question at the end. R for everything. Thank you. How have you been? Okay, so this is Shivam's question. How will the user find the feature in the product? They're interested, but can they find where the feature is in the product? How is your IA facilitating the discovery of a new thing that launched? Good question. So a lot of people, if I'm understanding it correctly, so sometimes people do a first-time experience. If it's really something new and people aren't expecting to find it, sometimes people do a first-time experience where only the first time people go into the app or system or are near the area where this thing lives, there's a quick overlay saying, you know, did you know this thing now does this? And you have a little thing on the bottom that says, got it. You know, you see this a lot in Google products. And again, I don't totally love it because we always hope that our systems are intuitive, but I do also understand that sometimes when you've built in something new, people don't know it's there. They don't read the release notes. They might not have read your mailing list announcement that you released a new feature. And sometimes we just have to say to people, hey, welcome back. Did you know that there's a new thing here? It's over here. You know, thanks. And then, of course, you would want to make sure it's worked into the navigation so that for people who are new to the product in the future, it's in a logical place for them, because you wouldn't necessarily want to pop that up for them. Everything's new to them, and you don't want to do who is it? I think it's Miro who does this. I mean, I like Miro. Not sponsored, but they do this way too much, where every time you go into Miro, there's all these things popping up going, this does this, and this does this, and do you know this, and we've got this, and did you see our webinar? And I don't think that's good UX. I think that is distracting. So I think it's okay to do a small blurb first-time experience that people dismiss and never see again, and then make sure it's worked into your information architecture in a place where future customers who wouldn't have seen that blurb, hey, we have a new thing and it's over here, future customers would just logically know where to find it. You can certainly do that with tree testing. A prototype. You don't have to do the live site. You can tree test a prototype and give people tasks that relate to the new feature and see if they can find where in your system those are or where they naturally go. So let's see. Vishal, I see your question, but I'm going to need some help with what Industry 4.0 is, because I keep hearing things and numbers and I don't want to assume I know what they mean, like what's Web 3.0 and whatever. Marina, is that how you say your name? I see your question too. You'll be after R for everything. And let's keep getting some questions up here. Thanks to everybody for joining and keeping this active. All right, we've got a question from Janani. Let's put it up in this exciting new method. All right, how's that? Let's see. Keen to get some words of wisdom in terms of doing scoping exploratory projects that run ahead of the product roadmap and impacts multiple teams. Hooray, we should be doing that. Yes, please. Oops, okay, sorry. Can't run both at the same time. Let's see. I ran a concept test recently, asked participants to explain in their own words the idea and concept to understand our comprehension of copy. Well, hold on. Are we trying to test copy, or are we trying to test the concept, or are we just trying to do open exploratory research on what our company might even build or do or create? Help me out here, because asking people to explain this in their own words can help you with copy and some information architecture to understand how people describe or organize or categorize this. Oh, the second part is just a comment. Oops. Okay, let's take it off. All right, let's, okay, that was your comment for the other person's thing. Sorry. All right. Bing. All right. Yeah, so exploratory research running ahead of stuff. Yeah, so there's a couple of ways that you can address this. Normally what I would do is sometimes I start with where are we seeing complaints from customer support, or where do we know from sales where people tend to be like, oh, I liked you guys, but this is a deal breaker. You know, your site doesn't do this, or I ran your demo and it was hard. so I would say go find some of our biggest internal pain points because they're going to be semi-representative of customers' pain points. Why are we losing sales? Where are people contacting customer support because they've met the 4 horsemen of bad UX and they are frustrated, confused, disappointed, and distracted? Now you're saying, well, Deb, why don't you start there? What about the user? I'm going to learn next about the user, but I'm going to start with something that's definitely affecting our business because number 1, it probably definitely affects our user. And number 2, when I can fix it, it can certainly be then used to help explain the value of CX and UX within the company. So I would probably start with that. So let's say we find out from sales that people tend to do the demo and then they don't sign up. Or we find out from customer support that there's something, oh, I see an anonymous question coming in. Thank you, Anonymous. We'll get you on the list. Sorry about that. So anonymous person, completely anonymous. We'll add you to the bottom of the list, so please be patient, but we'll get to you. So I love doing the exploratory stuff. We recently did a more exploratory project in the Delta CX world. They're really important, and I think they should be really constantly done. So I would start with something that we can prove is an internal pain point because it probably is an external pain point. That also sets us up to have some good metrics or success criteria. We can say, see, now we're not losing so many people during the trial, or see, customer support is getting fewer complaints now. So we've made it better for the customer and we made it better for the internal company. So I might start there with something that I can fix. If you're talking more about blue sky, what could our product be? What are features we should build? Sometimes I take what people tend to do in our company's system or product, whatever it is, and I find people who aren't our customers, and I do kind of, if it's digital, I do remote observational research where I look at how they do this now, and I do my typical task analysis, and I say, okay, they're in our competitors' systems, or maybe they're in our systems. It could be either. But I really also love watching people not in our systems. And I take a look at what are their steps, and then what do they add to their steps, or what's missing? What are the tools that they need to bring in? Did they create workarounds because something's missing? Are they missing knowledge because there's something our system expects them to know that they really don't know or didn't remember? What are other issues, obstacles, and concerns? And then how could we optimize that? And that's going to leave that room for new ideas, disruptions, innovations, whatever. And I like to watch people on our current product, and I like to watch them on competitors' products. Not because I want to copy competitors. I usually want to do nothing that competitors are doing because they suck too. But that could give us some ideas of where to go with our product. And really what tends to be the best for that are the tools, knowledge, workarounds, issues, concerns, and obstacles. That's where a lot of the disruption and innovation can happen. If we just look at people's steps and say, how could their steps be better? Now you have kind of a customer journey map. And you go, well, here's our journey, and maybe they're sad over here, and hey, we can make this better. But I feel like the places where I and my team have really done our more interesting work has been where we solved for outside tool usage. We'll be talking about that next Wednesday when Larry Marine drops by and does a micro lesson on knowledge design on the 27th. But that is where I think you have some of the most interesting opportunities to add to the product roadmap, both for fixes and for completely new ideas. Janani, how was that? Does that answer that? Or was there something I missed? So feel free to ask follow-up questions. And now I'm going to queue up our next question. I'm usually here only an hour, so we will get to as many questions as possible. And because I've had to cancel some of these because of my new contract work. Oh, there's a second anonymous question. Hold on, I'm going to get all these on the list and do my best. Okay, hello, second anonymous question. Let's get you on the list because this is a copy-paste adventure. Okay. All right, we've got you on the list, I promise. All right, let's find our question after Janani. This was, I think, Art for Everything. recruiting for usability, or is that, no, let's check whose question is next. Whatever it is, I'm going to queue it up. And thank you, Vishal, for clearing that up. We'll add that when I get to your question. Yeah, there's thanks, Janani. There's great task analysis stuff in the micro lessons playlist on YouTube. So everybody remember, especially if you're watching on LinkedIn right now, that we have a Delta CX YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and look for Delta CX. We've got over 400 videos, and many of them are a little on the long side. Many of them do run an hour, but think of them as mini conference sessions that you didn't have to pay for. And we have a playlist called Micro Lessons, and that's where we teach you different things. There's lots of stuff there on task analysis, and we'll be adding to it next week. And all of that is free. We've started putting some ads on some of the videos, but my promise is that all the ad money will go to charity. I figured, why not take some money from YouTube and give it to charities? Because I don't want to monetize you, but I hear that running ads helps you in the algorithm. So maybe it'll help us in the algorithm, and then I can give the money to charity. All right, let's take a look at this question, which came from R for Everything. I'm currently having trouble when calling people to recruit for usability testing. How can I convince them to participate in testing? Do I tell them about the incentive right off the bat? I do tell people about the incentive right off the bat, because sometimes that does make the difference. Remember, if they don't know they're going to be paid for their time, number one, they might think you're just taking advantage of them. Like, please, out of the goodness of your heart, won't you spend 20, 30, 60, 90 minutes with us making our thing better, thanks to you. So I do tell them about the incentive off the bat. Now, of course, I still want to screen them, because yes, you will sometimes get people who don't care about this and don't do a good job testing, and they just want to get the money, but you run that risk. If you are getting people from a panel, you can typically go back to the panel and go, this tester was terrible. They just did this for the money. We can't use their stuff. And they'll usually give you a different person. But if this is just you doing your own recruiting, I definitely would let people know about the incentive. And what I typically say, I have a script that says something like, people who are selected and complete the study or session or whatever it is, people who are selected and complete the study will receive 50, 75, 100, 200, whatever it is, dollars, whatever it is, via PayPal, Tremendous, whatever you're using. And that is definitely a motivator for many people, and you have to make that incentive make sense, usually for kind of like, it has to be at or above what people get paid in general. When people say, yeah, I want to meet high-level managers, and I go, well, what are you giving them for the session? $50. They do not care. Do not care. If you want that high-level person, sorry, drink with ice, you're going to have to pay for that person. You're going to have to offer them $100, $150, $200 an hour. But yes, I would tell them about the incentive up front. So thank you. I'm going to jump to the next question, and I'm going to grab the one that just came in anonymously and put it at the bottom of the list. Here we go. Hello, Debbie. I have a question about personas. Do we still use them? And if yes, how to do it correctly? Share some resources where I could check it. Yeah, so instead of giving you a long answer here, I'm going to direct you to the YouTube channel Micro Lessons playlist. Or you know what you can do? Here's a great tool for anybody, and again, costs you nothing. Go to YouTube, write Delta CX, and then write whatever the heck you want to know about. Personas. You'll probably get 3 videos, maybe more. And I would say start there. If those videos don't answer your question, come on back and ask your question, or join our Slack channel, deltacx.link/join Slack. It's free. Join our Slack channel, ask your question. We've got a research and testing Slack channel, so you can ask questions about personas there. But I would say watch our videos about it first, because it might answer what you're looking for. And we still do use personas, but many personas were made badly. And so we do have some micro lessons in the micro lessons playlist on how do you make personas good, when do you need them, and how do you combine the task analysis process and what you learn from it with personas to make personas a lot more powerful. So hopefully those things will help you out. And I'm adding our anonymous question to the bottom of the list. So that was the red flag question. So thank you. Let's see. Oh, I got so many long questions today. Y'all have a lot on your mind. We should have a call-in show like radio. All right. Now I think we're up to Vishal's question, which was about Industry 4.0. Who numbers these things, and can we convince them to stop? And at what point does something not need a number? At what point is it just the thing that we do? All right, so Vishal was asking, what is the scope of CX in Industry 4.0? I see there's a lot of saturation in CX. Want to know more about it. Can you help me? And Vishal said they're referring to technologies like AR, VR, robotics, and AI. Okay, I am not an expert on AR, VR, robotics, and AI, but obviously all of these things revolve around CX. We're probably doing all of these things for users, customers, consumers, potential customers, patients, whatever word you want to use for these people, they are the end user or consumer of something. So I would say that CX is still absolutely paramount, can't be ignored. And even if it's a virtual environment, there still is UX, there still is CX. We can still do the whole arc of everything that we do. We can still do research. We still have content. We still have information architecture. We still have interaction design, whether that's more of a service design or an interaction design. So I think that no matter what these things are, we still have typical areas of user-centered design, human-centered design, CX and UX that we can do. As for where are those things going and how do you work with them more closely, we've got 4 new videos on the channel about XR. That's in our Concentric Conference playlist. And we've got, we did a conversational AI talk, episode 77 last year, and we did gaming. We didn't do robotics. We have a couple of videos on these things, but we haven't done a lot. So unfortunately, I'm not the right expert for this, and I apologize. But the answer is yes to everything. CX is part of all of this. You can't get away from CX. There isn't something that doesn't have CX. Name something that doesn't have a customer or user experience of some kind. Even things I get from my dog have the experience for me as the buyer and the dog as the user. Janani has a question. Okay, a follow-up question to her previous question. I will sneak in your question next because it's a follow-up question, and then we will go to one of our anonymous questions. And, the show is half over and I have so many questions from y'all, so I'll do my best to answer as many of them as possible. The show is only an hour. All right. I forgot to put it up on the screen. I'm looking at it. I can see it. How can I get this is a follow-up to Janani's question. How can I get buy-in evangelizing when the output from the exploratory projects may be different, should put on my glasses, from my typical more generative product-centered projects? How can I get buy-in evangelizing? Yeah, so to me, I can't guarantee anybody buy-in, and I really want us to stop saying evangelizing because that's really not what we're doing or what we should be doing. There should be buy-in because we hired you, you're good at what you do, and you just found something important that our company should look at. That to me is the buy-in. Now, you know that for this stuff, I'm recommending words like business intelligence and risk mitigation. So I would say that you would say from your new exploratory research, hey, we've got fresh business intelligence. We've got fresh customer intelligence. Now we know more things about what people need or expect from us. Now we know something new about competitors because we did an exploratory study where we saw people using the competitor's site or product. So I think position it as intelligence that we should be acting on, and you can also position it as risk mitigation. We don't want to run the risk that we deliver the wrong thing for our customers or that we're not doing a good job passing our competitors. These things are risks. If we follow in this proposed roadmap or path, this should reduce our risk. So less wasted time, less wasted budget, less wasted effort, less poor morale, things like that. So, yeah, so to me, the output and the typical output of something like a task analysis is, like many things in CX and UX and service design, you've got your current state, which is your task analysis, and you've got your desired future state, which is what could this process look like for someone if our system did more of the heavy lifting. If we were able to reduce some of these steps or reduce a workaround that people are adding to things right now and make the system do this stuff, what is that desired future state? Now we've got a product that we can start imagining, or we can consider high-level features, not exact executions or sketches necessarily, but we can start going in that direction. So Janani, I hope that helps. Let's take a look at the next question, which was a long anonymous question. Anonymous, though I saw the person who asked it, but I won't say. Oh, hold on. It is longer than I can fit in the box. Give me a second. Okay. All right. Next question says, hey, Debs and fellow low ego action heroes. I've been working with a few leads who I've later found out don't have actual UX backgrounds. Rather, they are visual designers, former graphic design guys. Very common. Unfortunately, I'd already joined the organization. I know. Currently, the department I'm in is order taking and dominated by engineering. Do you have any insights on how I can begin to change things around? My role as an intermediate UX designer. Thanks, Deb, smiley face. Yeah, I do. Again, I can't guarantee that any of this will work. I can tell you how to try to address this, but I can't guarantee that it works because I can never guarantee that you can create change wherever you are. It's just, there's too many variables. I would probably say, depending upon what's going there, maybe watch episode 116. And we used to say, if I say episode 116, drink. This is my breakfast shake. Episode 116 is long. It's an investment, but think of it as a free conference workshop. It is 2.5 hours long, and episode 115 is its partner. And so the two of them have a lot of what I'm saying lately. They cover business intelligence, risk mitigation. They cover why we don't want to do things by workshop and by committee. So yeah, when your leads and or your managers do not have extensive experience in what you do, whether they're graphic designers or marketers or engineers or product managers, there always is a problem and a conflict. And we do suggest to people, and I think we had this in episode, was it 128, where Julia DeBari talked about questions you can ask in an interview. In the future, I would ask in the interview, my leads, my manager, what's their UX background? And if you hear they're designers, do more digging. Get their names, look them up on LinkedIn, see what sort of designers they are. Because again, as you're seeing, they could be former graphic designers who never have done UX. So what can we do to change the organization where things are dominated by engineering? For where you're located, you're lucky that you are, your world is a lot more about CX right now. Companies are caring about CX. I think the company you work for, since I saw how ask the question, claims to care about CX and the customer experience, which would mean, new graphic, the end-to-end customer experience. From the moment that a customer might possibly need something we do until what they do after their time in our system. So I think that I would probably be using stuff from episodes 115 and 116 to try to say that doing better UX work, which of course starts with research before we do our architecture and design, is business intelligence and risk mitigation. If you have been there long enough, I think you've been there 6 months or so, but if you've been there long enough to experience or have heard about a disaster project, that time we built the thing that nobody wanted, or that time we built the thing that had to be undone or fixed, that's sometimes your anchor. Sometimes your anchor is, hey, we don't want to have more projects like that one. I heard about that one, or I was on that one, or my ex-coworker was on that one. I heard about that one. We don't want to do that. That's risk for our company. That's wasted time and money. It looks bad to our customers. We don't want that. So I think sometimes we might have to trot out the old disaster projects and go, we can't sweep that one under the rug. We could end up doing that again. So, and also I recommend risk documentation. Projects are supposed to have a risk register where you're supposed to list anything that makes the project a risk. And you could say, because UX wasn't properly done, because we were not task-oriented, we were feature-oriented, because we designed based on guesses of what somebody thought customers would like. These are risks, and that whenever there is guessing, there is a risk, and that the way to mitigate that risk is to know, which means we do research first, or at least see if they'll get you rounds of testing. I don't know if they're also skipping testing, but that's usually my first open door. Hey, we QA our code before we put it out. Why aren't we testing our concepts before we send them to engineers and developers and so on? Let's do some usability testing. Hey, it can take just a few days to set up a test, moderated or unmoderated, see what needs to be improved, and iterate on our concepts. Everybody claims to want to iterate. Everybody claims to care about the customer experience, but the question would be, what is your company doing? What is in the process that guarantees customer satisfaction? We shouldn't have a project where at the end we wonder if customers will like it. If we're doing this right, we should be setting ourselves up for 4 or 5 stars out of 5 because we did the right things leading up. So try some of those things, and try making time for those other videos, and see if that helps. I know you're not locked down now, but I predict you will be again. So maybe when you're locked down, you'll have time to watch the videos. I hope that helps. And I hope that helps everybody watching, because it's a good general question. Okay, this one's very long. I'm going to have to make the font ever smaller. Ouch. All right, here we go. Hi, Debbie. I'm currently the only researcher on my team, and I haven't got down the best way to help them plan out research for now and the future. When I look into research planning, a lot of the times advice is given assuming that a researcher is being given direct requests from the team members and just has to prioritize them, but that doesn't happen to me often. At my company, during road mapping, product design and engineering will come up with people, problems, and themes, and then I have to help the team figure out what they want to know in order to solve those problems. I find this order of events a little weird, but I'm also new, so... But I don't know what's the best way to go about it. Other researchers at my company do brainstorm activities with their teams, but I'm really interested in your opinion. What's the best way to help a team understand what they want to understand? Okay, thank you for that. So let me jump in first with the end of the question, because brainstorm activities are not usually my first go-to thing. And remember that a brainstorm activity is not user research, and it's not any sort of testing with users. So I usually think of a brainstorm activity as more of a product or design thing and not necessarily a research thing, because to me, like, I want my researchers to spend time learning about our users and customers, not asking other people what ideas they have. You can do that. I have done that, but it's not the core of what I do. So I would say lighten up on the brainstorming activities, because I would take this one step back and say, what are you even brainstorming? So if it sounds like you're trying to understand things better, what I would find out is, it looks like from what you've said, and again, I might be misunderstanding this, so I apologize. You are not learning about some of these projects until later road mapping, but by the time you're road mapping something, you already know the project exists. You've probably you've requested the budget for it, and you got the budget for it. Now you have to like throw UX at it, and hopefully UX, estimated their time. It sounds like you, and probably all of UX, need to be involved earlier in the planning process. It sounds like there is very early planning going on. What are our strategies? What are our goals? What initiatives might accomplish these strategies and goals? And then what projects might come out of those initiatives to accomplish those strategies and goals. And now we'll give you the budget for that. And now let's start road mapping it. Well, it sounds like you and UX, I tell people they need to be talking to us way, way early, maybe even when we're talking about strategies and goals and certainly initiatives. So if you have like portfolio program project, you need to be at the portfolio level. You can't just wait until projects are being scheduled. That's too late, especially if you are providing the understanding that happens before this. This also plays into the whole task-oriented versus feature-oriented, which we did a few episodes ago. Check the live streamed podcasts playlist for feature-oriented versus task-oriented. It's based on a Medium article that I wrote. That might help you also. It's basically a reminder that research should feed product prioritization and road mapping. Why are we creating product features or roadmaps based on guesses or stakeholder dreams or ripping off the competitor? Where's the research to feed that? So I think you have an opportunity to maybe catch up on some of the videos or talk to me privately and see if there's an opportunity to talk to your company about being more involved earlier. And I'm going to say it again, business intelligence and risk mitigation. We want to make sure that we really know about our potential and current and other types of users and customers to make sure that we're building the right things for them and that's properly prioritized. And that's your job as the researcher. So I think you're just being added to the process too late. Like, we've already decided what this is. Go find out a couple of things about what people want. To me, that's reactive and it's too late. I would rather see research be more proactive and involved in these way earlier stages of planning. I hope that helps. Let's take a look at the next question. Thank you, everybody, for all these super questions. And as I mentioned, all of our show schedules for the rest of the year are upside down. I had to move them because of a contract job I'm working. So check deltacx.link/events for when our next shows are. And of course, a quick thank you to everybody who donates to the channel through the YouTube memberships. YouTube memberships start at $3 American a month. These are the people who are giving $5 American a month or more as of when I last checked. Thank you to Anita, Chang, Darren, Irena, Jordan, Michelle, Nikki, Ralitza, Ray, Solomon, and Mix Betty, our highest level donor currently. So thank you. I donated back to the channel, and sometimes I buy chocolate chips. So thank you. Ninny Mouse says, I don't know why, but product starts brainstorming really early, and then they ask research to come up ways to answer their own questions. And again, I'm glad you're involved at least a little, but I would say check out feature-oriented versus task-oriented, which I just did last week. So it's in the live streamed playlists, live stream podcast playlist. It's based on my Medium article. Send them my Medium article. Send them the video. Have a watch party. It's something I'm going to be pushing a lot more, that we really need research to inform product and earlier in the process, and not just, hey, we're going to build this, tell us some stuff about it. By then, what if what we're going to build is a bad guess? Maybe you'll find that out in your research and you'll be able to say, well, I researched it and this idea is a dead dog. But, figure that out, because maybe you can figure that out. All right, let's take a look at our next question, and let's paste it into this thing and make the font now bigger. All right, here we go. Do you consider it a red flag? Hold on, I've got a red flag. Do you consider it a red flag if a company you're interviewing at emphasizes that you should be comfortable with ambiguity? What a great question. We see that so often in job descriptions, and it's like, what does that mean? I'm seeing this a ton these days as I interview, and it gets me a little frustrated. I really like structure when I work, but sometimes when I say this in an interview, I think people see me as needing babysitting or not being adaptable enough. I get that situations at work aren't going to always be neat and straightforward, but I've also worked at places where lack of structure is conflated with creativity and being bottoms up, which I don't always think is the case. What do you think? All right. I think this is a great question for when you get an interview. If the question comes up in the interview, I would just ask it back. We talked about this in episode, 129 with Julia DeBari on questions you can ask during interviews. Or maybe it was with Lee in episode 128. But I would say, give me an example of this ambiguity. It's hard for me to say if I'm comfortable with ambiguity without knowing what type of ambiguity this is. I mean, there's ambiguity of not knowing what anybody expects of me of my job, and then there's other ambiguity. Don't we follow processes? Where is the ambiguity here? And then I can tell you if I'm comfortable with it or not. So to me, when I see comfortable with ambiguity, I do tend to think it means that our processes are a mess, or we don't always follow our processes at all or correctly. And are you okay with things that are going to kind of just keep changing? And my answer is usually, it depends how they could just keep changing. I'm usually flexible. I'm usually adaptable. I'm usually happy to pivot. But it depends what you mean by ambiguity. What type of ambiguity is happening here at this company? Can you give me a little bit more information or color? Now, of course, if they don't, you can always joke that your ambiguity is ambiguous because you can't even tell me what it is. But I think, whenever we talked in episode 128 about how if somebody, I think it was either 128 or 129, that if somebody asks you a question that you're just kind of not sure about, you're allowed to ask a clarifying question. Are you comfortable with ambiguity? It depends. What type of ambiguity are we talking about? There are times where I'm very comfortable with ambiguity and having to find and solve problems. And there are times where ambiguity is really a symptom of a broken process at our company that probably needs improvement. What type of ambiguity are you talking about? And I'll happily tell you where my comfort zone with it is. That's probably what I would do. But, you don't have to be me. All right, here is a new question from Romit. And it says, how to begin with user research process for a new company. That's really general. I'm not too sure what you mean by that. Are you saying that you're new at the company, or research is new to the company, or research is new to you? User research certainly has very clear processes. I haven't made a graphic for one yet. I really should. Where's my pen? Research process graphic. Research has processes. So I'm not too sure, normally we begin with a plan. What are we trying to learn? What are our goals? What types of ambiguities are we looking to clear up? What are some guesses or assumptions that people at our company have that research will help us clarify or improve or dispel? So normally research starts with planning and why are we doing research and what do we expect to learn from it? Then, of course, you decide what methodology will be best to learn the things you're looking to learn. And from there, you continue planning the research and eventually executing it. That would be my answer of how you begin a research process, planning. We did a micro lesson on some research planning. You can check that out in the micro lessons playlist. But Romit, if you're still here, can you give me a little bit more information or a follow-up question that would help me understand this better? Because I get the feeling I'm not quite understanding this, and I apologize. Let's take a look at, I think our last question is from Akash I'm sorry, I'm going to mess up your name. Akash Solanki. Let's put that question up while we see if if Romit wants to give us a little bit more information. Okay, so our question is CX different from UX? And that is a giant it depends. So there are people out there who definitely believe that CX and UX are very different things. I've heard that CX is your call center and your customer support. I've heard that CX is marketing because they decide the customer experience. What are we going to do, people? I've heard a lot of different definitions of CX, and certainly we hear different definitions of UX. So this is going to be a little bit of the eye of the beholder, where different people define these words different ways, and these haven't settled on a final standard yet. I think at this point we know what UX is, though many people are getting it wrong. But so what is CX? I see CX as what Don Norman intended by UX in the early 90s. So in the early 90s, Don Norman intended for UX to mean every experience a human can possibly have with a company or their product or service, from and again, think end-to-end customer journey, from I'm thinking about buying this type of thing to I'm going to shop for it and compare different ones and maybe go to some stores and see which one I want. Now we're orbiting, are we going to do business with you or not? Now maybe I do business with you. I'm in your ecosystem. I'm in your store. I'm buying a thing. What does it cost? How do I like it? Does it fit my needs? Is it heavy? Can it fit in my car? And finally, the things I do with this thing after I've bought it. What actions or tasks do I have with this thing now that I have it or signed up for it or whatever it might be? There's your end-to-end customer journey. And Don Norman originally intended for UX to mean that. And when Don Norman says design, he means the process of architecting and designing all of that. What happened over time was someone decided that UX was just screens. Whether these were computer screens or kiosks or phones or thermostats or watches, someone decided UX was just really about the digital experience. And to many of us, it's not, especially when you think about service design and other things like that. But UX has now been put in a box where very often it's, oh, something's happening. Oh, thank you, Vazia. Thank you very much. I'll have to update my list of people to thank. So are CX and UX the same thing? They very well could be. To me, they are. To me, there's nothing that I would think about or care about or do in the name of user experience that I'm not doing when I think about customer experience. To me, there isn't something I'm doing for customer experience that I wouldn't do for the user experience. And to me, at this point, they're the same. But I know people who draw very distinct lines for them. I know people who say, well, no, CX does exploratory research and user research and comes up with journey maps and the desired future state of the journey map and the customer experience strategy. And I say, that's fine, but as someone who specialized in UX, I would imagine that if I happen to be good at those things or my team is good at those things, why can't we do those? So again, I know people who see very distinct lines between the two. I know people who have completely different definitions than I use, and so we're on different planets. And then there's people like me who says, I think these things are the same. And I think a lot of the X's that are coming out right now all mean the same thing. When I see brand experience, employee experience, experience design, human experience, all of these things to me seem to me like the same thing. You know, what would I do for the employee experience that I'm not doing for the user experience? The employee in this case is the user. So, you know, or an internal customer in a sense. So like, I don't get some of these separations and some of these increasingly new terms. I think UX and CX cover it. I don't think we necessarily need BX and HX and EX and DX. DX, I think I saw was digital experience. Well, if you think that's what UX is, then we've already got that. So I'm using CX more than I'm using UX because I think at this point, UX has been so misunderstood and so put in a box. You know, you guys sketch pretty screens, you use Figma and you make screens. And it's like, oh man, no, we do so much more than that. So much more than that when people understand what we do. But so many don't. So that's my perspective of it. But again, you know, it's kind of like design thinking. No two people seem to have the same definitions of these things. So if you ask somebody else what CX or UX are, you'll get a different thing, just like what's UX and what's UI. You know, it's the big fight right now, but eventually we'll have to settle on what this is. And thank you, Vazia. So that's kind of it. We've only got 5 more minutes, so I'm going to go through the upcoming shows a little bit because it's confusing even for me. I don't even remember when I've scheduled some of these things because when I usually do my shows, I now have this new contract job and I had to move most of our usual shows. We usually do 4 shows a week at 6:30 p.m. Italy time, but that overlaps when my new 10-week contract job expects me to do some stuff. So that means just for the rest of the calendar year, the schedule is funky. I also have a 2-week vacation coming up, so that doesn't help. So a lot of things are being moved to Fridays since my contract job does not work on Fridays. So this Friday, I'm not doing a reaction stream. I'm doing a micro lesson to show you how I do project planning and project management in my own world. Thanks, Ikening. Good to see you. And let's see. Then Tuesday, so a week from today, normally I would do office hours at 6:30 p.m. Italy time, but because I'm expected at this other job, I'm going to do an early one like we did today. 10 a.m. Italy time will be next Tuesday as well, even though that is not a normal time for the show. Wednesday the 27th, I am keeping the normal time of the show, come hell or high water. This is our micro lesson on knowledge design with Larry Marine, Wednesday the 27th. Again, if you miss any of these, they're all archived on the YouTube channel. So please subscribe on the YouTube channel. Ring that bell, empathize with the like button, and please leave some comments after the stream is over. That really helps with the algorithm. Friday the 29th will be reaction stream, so you can send in things you want me to react to, deltacx.link/reaction, and tell me why. Now we're moving into November. Isn't that scary? And I'm still at the contract job, so let's see. Looks like Friday the 5th. Friday, November 5th, we're going to do our panel discussion on the realities of UX work, where we have people who've worked in UX for some time talk about what UX jobs are really like. Because, gosh, UX jobs sure seem to be different than all those YouTube videos about a day in the life of working in UX. Now we're in the second week of November. That's going to be the toughest part of my schedule at the current job. So I've only scheduled one thing that whole week, which is Friday the 12th, office hours Ask Us Anything with Darren and Dr. Nick. So notice that is not Tuesday in November. That's going to be Friday. We're doing that in December too. Tuesday the 16th of November, early office hours. Friday the 19th. I didn't put anything, so I'm taking a course. So I'm going to be at my course. So that's kind of it. So that means, unfortunately, very few streams in the coming weeks. I apologize, but I want to do the best I can at this contract job and give them the hours they are looking for. And unfortunately, those hours overlap this show. So once that contract job is over, which would be Christmas or before, we will go back to our regularly scheduled thing. But again, check deltacx.link/events for when things actually are. So in that case, I will see everybody Friday for my micro lesson on project planning, and we'll take it from there. And thanks everybody. Wear lots of masks, stay safe, make good decisions, and I will catch you all in a few days. Thanks. Bye. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are